Hello, I think I'm live. Yeah, welcome everybody to my first ever webinar. I can see that somebody's come on just now. Yeah, welcome. And hello, Nigel. Nice to see you. Yeah, so I was expecting to do this as more of an interactive webinar with other people appearing on screen, but hello, Caroline, welcome. But the take-up has been phenomenal. It was far more than I was expecting, and the limit on here is 15, and I had about 25 people say that they're attending. So we're going to have this as a webinar, and thank you very much. As you come in, if you say hello, and then I'll know that you're here and I can say hello back. And also, if you have any questions or if you have any comments, please put them into the comments. I'll be able to see that pop up, as I think everybody else will. Hello, Kate, welcome. And then I'll be able to respond to those as well and hopefully incorporate those into the presentation. So maybe we'll give it another minute or so for a few more people to turn up. I will add a little slide. Hello, Jenny. Hello, James. Nice to see you here. Yeah, I was just explaining that the take-up's been a little bit higher than I was expecting. I was expecting this to be more of an interactive conversation, more of a chat. Hello, Samantha. Hello, Kate. Hello, Nicola. Hello, David. Yeah, so we've got quite a few people this evening, which is great. What I'm going to be talking about here is breaking free from the shackles of success. Hello, Tracy. Lovely to see you pop up. Yeah, so removing the shackles of success and exactly what I mean by that and how that can help create a life with purpose, with balance, and with joy, which is very much what I focus on and what I focus on with my clients at the moment. And also how I got to sit in this seat, why I'm sitting in this seat. Hello, Nicola. Nice to see you. And how I use my experience and my journey through life and through being a CEO and my transition into becoming a life coach as well, and how that's helping my clients as well. So apologies if I make some mistakes, because this is the very, very first time I've ever held a webinar. I've never used this platform before. I've never done a webinar on LinkedIn or on YouTube, and this is being streamed live on both, which is absolutely amazing. My goal for today is very much to enjoy myself. And if in enjoying myself, I can impart some lessons, some life lessons that help even one of you, even slightly, I will absolutely have won. So yeah, this is all about just enjoying. Hopefully the slides are going to be very informative. I'll give it another minute, I think, because people are popping up all the time. As I mentioned early on, before I think some of you popped up, thank you for saying hello. If you have any comments or any questions, please do put them into the comments and I will be able to pull them up. So for example, if I go like that, Caroline is there, I can hide, I can say hello, Nicola, there's Nicola. So if you put a comment in there, I can actually call up the comment and I can incorporate that into the presentation and hopefully respond. So it isn't just me talking, it's maybe a little bit more interactive, although I have actually prepared, as expected, a presentation as well. So hello, Sophie, nice to see you. So I'll go straight into it now. So remove the shackles of success, creating a purpose, balance, and joy. So what's it all about? Hello, Kenny, nice to see you all the way from Copenhagen. Yeah, it's about creating outrageous goals, and that's a really important phrase, with simple, deliverable, and compassionate steps to get there. I started off my journey as a coach anyway, talking about, and after I had coaching, talking about audacious goals, and I've subsequently taken them to outrageous goals, and they'll probably become ludicrous because both myself and my clients are absolutely smashing those. So what this presentation is all about, this webinar, is how to go about doing that. So as much as I can impart in such a short amount of time, I will do my best. So here we go. So just a few client wins, for example. One client's completely refocused his business, to what he truly loves. And actually this very week is moving with his family to Ibiza to live his dream life. He came to me about 6 months ago It's unbelievable what's happening. It's absolutely amazing. And this is very much about the belief and setting outrageous goals. Another client is transitioning from a corporate role, a major corporate role, to consulting, relocating from New York to a beautiful property in France, reconnecting with their passions and rediscovering their zest for life. And I'm telling you this because what I don't want this to be is just a whole sequence of slides talking about me and my amazing transformation and the outrageous goals that I've smashed. This is happening for other people as well. So my transition and the story that I'll tell you is very much about more of a metaphor for how you can set outrageous goals and you can smash them. And it doesn't have to be, specific to outdoor activities or specific to, the different things that I've done. It's very much about whatever's relevant to you and whatever it is that you want to do, and about removing these shackles, these things that constrain us. And by these shackles, what I mean is that sometimes the more successful we become, the more we narrow our options. So for me, for example, when I was a CEO, I very much thought that I had to be another CEO. That was it. They were my options, either that or retirement or not working at all. And that is so not true. And it's so not true for my clients as well. And it's so liberating and rewarding to see that happen. I've got a third client who's doubled her bottom line with my coaching and mentorship. She's on track to quadruple her business. And with my support and expertise, she is poised to sell for a really extraordinary outcome. So that's wonderful. And then finally, another client shifted their life from one of obligation to ownership, literally adding millions to their net worth, as well as bringing more time and joy into their life by reclaiming their vision and fully stepping into their purpose. And that's been an absolutely amazing transformation to witness, from being held and kept really quite small in a family business through obligation to really becoming world class and taking control of the business, and actually, as a result, being given significantly more of a share of the business, which has been worth millions for that individual. And ironically, spending less time on the business as well, and having far more balance in life, which has been absolutely wonderful. So me, where have I come from? This guy, how did I go from this young whippersnapper enjoying life to this CEO on a global stage, working with one of my all-time heroes, Sir Terence Conran. And on the bottom left-hand corner of the slide there, you can see that's the store that I opened in Seoul in Korea, which is the biggest and best design store in the world. We got multiple awards for it. Really, I was on top of the world, having an absolutely amazing time, theoretically. But what was going on behind the scenes? This is me. This is the flip side to success. So as much as I was incredibly privileged and I was absolutely loving what I was doing, and I've only ever really done jobs that I've loved, although with that has come a high degree of reward, but also stress. And I've dealt with my own issues, whether it's to do with I've had panic attacks, I've had various other things as well on my way up to becoming a CEO. And I've managed to navigate my way through that. But as I say, I had this amazing life, traveling first class around the world, staying in amazing hotels, working in roles that I was incredibly passionate about and dedicated to. But behind the scenes, I let go of so many other areas of my life, in particular health and well-being. And really, this is about my journey from that to the next stage. I mean, I was at one point, as I was working up to becoming an MD and then a CEO, I remember describing how I felt about my role and how I felt about my work. I remember saying that it felt like I was in a speedboat heading towards this imaginary desert island, and coming towards me from all sides were terrorists coming to get me. And there were ships burning in the sea, in the water. There were mines. There were planes coming at me from all angles. And what I was doing was I was navigating my way around them. And thriving on that as well. So it wasn't all bad. I really felt that that fueled my drive and that fueled my success, because I was running on adrenaline. And I actually look back now and I feel quite sorry for myself, because although maybe to an extent it did help me, what it didn't do, going back to the previous slide, is it didn't contribute very much to my well-being at all, whether that was not exercising, whether that was not eating right, whether that was overindulging, and just generally not looking after myself. So this wasn't a great place to be, although on the surface it delivered what the outside world would see as success, and the trappings of success, but mostly financial and ego. So what happened? What changed? Well, what changed was, going back about 14 years ago now, I started to meditate. It was actually after I left my role as a managing director at Urban Outfitters. I was on a 1.5 year gardening leave, and one of the things I decided to do to fill my time was just explore yoga. And through yoga, I started to explore meditation, and that started with mindfulness. And what that did was it really opened up an opportunity for self-reflection and space in my mind, and in my life. And that was incredible. And it's, if anybody asked me what I would recommend as the number one tool to improve your quality of life, I would say meditation without a shadow of a doubt. So it started with self-reflection about 14 years ago, and I continued on that journey, and I studied and I learned about all different types of meditation. I learned about all different types of consciousness and all different types of awareness. I really consumed, and all different types of well-being. And um, I continued on that path for about 10 years. And then I came across a life coach. And the life coach, what happened with the life coach was it was like supercharged guided reflection. So I'd managed to go a very long way with my self-reflection and my meditations and my study, which had absolutely connected me to joy, to a really calm and peaceful and joyous place, and given me so many tools to cope with and deal with, and maximize creativity. But coming across a life coach absolutely supercharged my life and changed everything. And I had no idea what a life coach was until I came across this life coach, and I just did it for a laugh. And it was very much about connecting to your feeling voice. So how did she do that? Well, the first thing, there were two incredibly major things that she introduced me to. And the first one was something called productive working life. I don't know if it's a real thing, but it worked a treat for me, and it works a treat for my clients. Seems to make perfect sense. Apparently, productive working life, you can measure your productive working life from the age of 20 to the age of 80. And I was 53 at the time. So she said to me, "Do you realize that you have 45% of your productive working life left to live?" Well, that came as a little bit of a surprise, because I was expecting to retire at, and I'm very fortunate, I was expecting to retire at 55. And I thought I was just coasting to retirement. And then that was sort of it. Life was almost over. So my first realization was that if I had 45% of my productive working life left to live, and let's round it up to half for argument's sake, I didn't want to do all that all over again. I felt no need to validate myself through big titles. I didn't want to go through all of those things all over again, all the work, all the stress, all the whatever. Um, but what I did, and the amazing realization was that I had half my productive working life left to live. So the second realization was that if I'd achieved all of the things that I'd achieved up until that point in my life, just imagine, with half of my productive working life left to live, what I could achieve in the second half. That was an absolute game changer. And the reason why it was an absolute game changer was because it removed the concept of time completely. When I was 20 years old, I didn't say, Nicola, that's amazing. At 53, you've got 45% of your productive working life left to live. So you've got almost half of your productive working life left to live. You've got so many, versions of yourself ahead of you, which is so incredibly empowering. Um, so yeah, so that to me, that the removing the concept of time, where I'd assumed on so many levels that I'd run out of time, that I didn't have time to to reinvent myself, to do different things. Um, yeah, that was removed completely, because when I was 20 years old, I didn't say I've got to be a CEO by the time I'm 25 or 30. It was being in the moment, doing the best job I could do, enjoying the process and working my way up and growing and moving forwards. And so removing time had a profound effect on me, and it took the pressure off. The second thing, so much to go, Nicola, absolutely so much to go. Um, the second thing that she introduced me to, which I thought was an incredibly self-indulgent concept prior to being introduced to it, was the concept of self-compassion. And it was, again, incredibly liberating. I don't know, although I have my suspicions, why I became a CEO. I think it's got something to do with my childhood, and I'll be quite open about it. I lost my family when I was a child, pretty much, and I lost my childhood and lost everything. We lost all our possessions. So I actually worked up from nothing to becoming a CEO. So there was, and I come from a mixed race background as well. I went to a very posh little primary school, and through everything that happened to me when I was a child, losing my family, I also ended up then going to the worst comprehensive school in Essex, which was full of racists and skinheads and whatever else. So as hard as that sounds, it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. Not the loss, but being exposed to people from all different walks of life, and I learned some amazing lessons from that. But what it did definitely give me, especially being mixed race and especially losing family, was imposter syndrome, and knowing that I had to deliver some form of financial security, but it could go just overnight, like it did in my life. Um, so working on self-compassion, and she actually did a little 15-minute exercise with me, was incredibly liberating. It took so much pressure off my shoulder. And what I mean by self-compassion there is the image there that I got AI to create for me is, it's not a self-indulgent thing. If you're on an aeroplane, if you need the oxygen, you have to give it to yourself first of all before you can even give it to your children, because you have to make sure that you've filled up your oxygen, your banks. And it's the same thing with self-compassion. The stronger you are, the more love you have for yourself, the more you have to share. And I see this with myself, and I also see it with my clients every single time without fail, that as soon as they work on self-compassion, almost instantaneously, the first thing that happens is that it overflows, and they want to give and they want to share. It's wonderful. So self-compassion was an absolute game changer for me, along with this productive working life. So then, moving on from that, what did I get out of that relationship with that coach, who's I haven't actually spoken to for a very long time, but it was a turning point in my life. Working with that coach, and in particular using the concepts of productive working life and self-compassion. And self-compassion is also about vulnerability and feeling completely comfortable being vulnerable, because in complete vulnerability, there's complete power, because you've got nothing to lose, nothing to hide, and it's incredibly liberating. So with that coach, I set myself 3 goals, and this is going back 5 years now. I'm 58 now, and as I say, I was 53 at the time. And the first goal was as if there was no chance of failure. The second goal was a physical goal, and the third goal was something to bring a smile to my face. And the reason why I talk about these as outrageous goals, and it's worth sharing them, is that even though these are very specific goals for me, the concept of how I was able to apply these principles to what I called at the time audacious, and then I redefined as outrageous, and now, as I say, I'm going to redefine as ludicrous, you'll see, were just unbelievable to me. And I didn't think, I thought I had no hope of doing these things. So the very first goal, if there was no chance of failure, I was still a CEO at the time, and I decided that what I really wanted to do was give up being a CEO and find some work that had purpose, find something that connected me to joy, find something that gave me balance in my life, and something that allowed me to give back. I had absolutely no idea what that was. And I definitely had no idea that it was going to turn into coaching. Coaching is only something that I've been doing in the last couple of years. And that's just been a natural evolution. And it's not something that I ever intended to, even though I trained as a coach, it's not something that I ever intended to do as part of, earning a living. That's just been a fantastic evolution. And I've now become a very successful coach. So that's the first goal. And I can't believe I'm sitting here doing this webinar now, having completely reinvented myself. This is me sitting there as a coach, sitting there in Bali, coaching people in Bali, there in Morocco, coaching people, because I'm now, amazingly, a digital nomad. Who would have believed that I could make that happen? And I have. It's, at the time, it was outrageous, it was audacious, but it's happened, and I've loved every minute of the journey, and I'm still on that train. So that's the first one. That's if there was no chance of failure, that's what I do. And I chose to believe, and I chose to just do it. The second goal, again, an outrageous challenge. I was 53 and I couldn't swim. A friend of mine, and I tried many times before in my life to learn how to swim, but I just couldn't do it. At one point, I even had a swimming lesson, and the swimming instructor actually started laughing and said, "Not only are you sinking, you're actually going backwards." And I've never seen that before in my life. And that was only a couple of years before that. Having come across this productive working life concept and removed the concept of time, having focused on self-compassion and stopped beating myself up and having to be perfect, I went on a journey to learn how to swim, but not to learn how to swim specifically. A friend of mine went on a holiday to Greece, on a swimming holiday, and swam from island to island in Greece, 5 kilometers. I decided that I didn't want to be another CEO, but a life goal for me would be to swim from island to island in Greece. Coming from a position of not being able to swim at all, to telling everybody that my outrageous goal, and I knew it was going to happen, was to swim from island to island in Greece. And as they say, you step on the path and the path reveals itself. I didn't set any timeline on that because I didn't want to. I don't believe in SMART goals anymore, and we'll talk about that in a little while. But what I did was I just stepped on that path, and I really enjoyed the journey. And what you're seeing here are pictures of the results, some of the results that have come from me stepping on that path. On those images, there are things there that I have never done until the last 2 or 3 years. So I decided to learn how to swim, and then I realized that I didn't want to do triathlons or anything, but what I did want to do was go and swim in wild water, not necessarily cold water. And I joined a few Facebook groups, and one of them was wild swimming, another one was slow swimming. And I noticed that nearly all of the photos that I loved were of frozen lakes and lochs. So I then had to learn how to get into cold water, and I hated cold water. So I ended up doing a 7-week Wim Hof course, which got me into cold water, which is up here. And I then went off and started jumping into lakes. First time I did that was in the Lake District, dropping my son off at university in Lancaster, going off in my camper van. It was in January. It was 4 degrees in the water. It was freezing. I could only stay in the water for 10 minutes, and even that's pushing it. And then I'd go off walking around the lake for a few hours, and then I bumped into people, chatted to them, and then I went off and found waterfalls. And then, it was absolutely amazing. I'd go off like the Hobbit, searching for the ring for 2 or 3 hours, looking for a waterfall. So then I worked out that I could go in the lake, in the water, I could go around the water, I could go above the water, and then I wanted to go on the water. So I decided that I wanted to learn how to or find some form of raft. I'd never canoed, never kayaked, never done any of that before. And what you can see in the picture there with the water in the background and a raft is me on an island with my raft in the background. I'm now doing expeditions, going off into the wild, carrying a raft on my back, and that's actually at the same time as the picture at the very top there of me camping on top of a mountain. I never did any of that stuff before either. So now I'm going on expeditions, rafting, hiking, wild camping, sleeping on top of mountains. We have a camper van because I refused to sleep in a tent. Now I'm sleeping on a tent on top of a mountain, digging holes to poo in. It's mad. Um, and you also have here a picture of me doing handstands, which was just a byproduct because I said, if I can get into a bath full of frozen water, I can do anything. So I just joined a class with a load of kids and ended up doing handstands for no reason at all, just because I knew I could. And so that's just an example of a physical goal. I stepped on the path and I've absolutely smashed it. And interestingly enough, I've now incorporated that into my coaching as well. So I'm doing micro adventures with clients. About 3 weeks ago, I went out into the woods and camped in some hammocks with actually the client who's moving to Ibiza this week. And it was an amazing experience. So yeah, so now I've incorporated my dream life and dream job into my pastimes as well. And I'm getting paid for it. It's absolutely amazing. And you can do this too. The third goal, which was probably the hardest of all, was one to bring a smile to my face. I gave up alcohol almost 5 years ago now. I could not dance without getting completely drunk, copious amounts of alcohol to overcome serious social anxiety and performance anxiety when it came to dancing. And for whatever reason, it's been there ever since I was a child. And I tried to learn how to dance even when I was younger, but never been able to do it. But since going on this journey, I've really connected to this inner joy, and I really have had this desire to express it, and go to parties, go to wherever. And what I did was I ended up going on something called an ecstatic dance day, which was in Regent's Park, which is what you can see there, with about 200 other people dancing in public for 3.5 hours. And then I actually met somebody there, and his wife, and we went off a couple of days later to a mad Sufi rave, all fueled purely by cacao. Absolutely amazing. So that's another goal. And I am incorporating this into my coaching as well. It's absolutely wonderful. In fact, the last 3 days, I've gone into my gym. I'm very fortunate to have a gym in the back garden. And I've done half an hour of dance just on my own to connect to my feeling body. It's been absolutely wonderful. So they're the 3 goals that I set myself, outrageous goals at the time that I almost didn't believe that I could achieve. But not only have I achieved them, I've absolutely smashed them and taken them to another level completely, as have my clients in the amazing things that I talked about earlier that they've achieved, the 4 clients that I referenced. And another lesson that I learned along the way that's enabled me to do this is a concept that I put together called Smart Goals Can Kill You. And I came across this concept last October when I was actually on what you can see here was a rafting expedition in the Scottish Highlands. And what we did was we went out into the wilderness for 3 nights and we rafted, hiked, wild camped. And 2 days before, it was a 4-month training and planning process prior to going out into the wilderness. We had to plan our routes, our destination, where we were going to camp, our nutrition, all of that stuff. Again, I've never done any of this before. We planned, each of us had to plan our route. And for the 2 days before we went out, we had some training in Fort Lauderdale. We stayed in a lodge before we went out into the wilderness. At the end of that training, the safety training and the planning, the expedition leader asked us to set some goals. And we all set some goals, told him what they were. And he said to us, you have all set SMART goals. And in an environment like this, SMART goals will get you killed. And that's because you plan these expeditions on a kitchen table where it's nice and warm and nice and safe. And you plan it assuming that the weather conditions are going to be amazing, which is exactly what we'd all done. So, but in that environment, the weather changes on a whim. And what you will do is, if you set SMART goals, is you'll decide you want to get from A to B within a certain time frame, and you will push yourself to the limit to try and achieve that. And you will either overextend yourself and get yourself killed or seriously hurt, or you won't achieve your goal and you'll see yourself as a loser, which is such a shame. So what he told us to do, and that's exactly what would have happened to us. He told us to set meta goals. Meta goals meaning, what do you actually want to get out of this expedition? The meta goals that I set for myself were to learn, to grow, and to enjoy the process. Well, amazingly, last October was the worst rain in a generation on that side of Scotland. They actually closed the roads all the way down from Fort Lauderdale to Glasgow. It was police escort only because of the flooding. We were out wild camping, rafting, and hiking in that. And if we'd gone to the island that I wanted to go to, which looked like this beautiful Caribbean island in the Scottish in a Scottish loch by the Irish Sea, if we'd come out of the river that we were in and turned left to go to the island, we wouldn't be here now, because it was gale force winds. The waves were crashing over the top of us. We had to change our plans. And fortunately, we survived. It was absolutely amazing. What we absolutely did on that trip was we overcame the obstacles. We navigated through the challenges. We remade our plans. We adjusted accordingly. And the goals that I set myself of learning, of growing, and of enjoying the expedition, we absolutely smashed, so much more than we would have done if it had been perfect conditions. So it's really a metaphor for life there. You know, what's the point of getting to the end of your life and getting a telegram from, or whatever you get nowadays, from the king, if you haven't enjoyed your life? It's much more about enjoying the journey, because if you're enjoying it, you're not going to give up. And that's one of the reasons why I now, and coming back to the swimming thing and swimming from island to island in Greece, last July, I did a 6-kilometer swim in an estuary down in South Devon, out to the sea. It was absolutely amazing. And this is bearing in mind from not being able to swim at all when I was 53. And it's because I didn't push myself. I just did it very slowly without any time limit. And I just carried on going. I had no reason to give up because I was enjoying it so much. And that's, again, another metaphor for life. Connect to what you love, understand what it is that you love, and you have no reason to give up. Enjoy the journey. So this is it, meta goals. The important thing to do is to orient yourself in the right direction. And that's something that I talk to my clients about all the time. Rather than setting yourself a SMART goal, and for those of you that don't know what a SMART goal is, SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So say, for example, I want to run a 5K. I want to do it in 6 months' time, and I want to do it in under 25 minutes. Is a very specific, measurable, and achievable, and realistic and timely goal for some people. But I've done that before, and I didn't enjoy the journey. In fact, I was running every day, training for a half marathon, and I hated the practice. So much so that once I did the half marathon, I didn't want to run again. I do run, and I run a couple of times a week, but I don't use my Garmin. I've got a Garmin. I don't use it anymore. I don't time myself, because I remembered that it's about enjoying the journey. I remembered why I ran in the first place. Over the course of time since I've been running, which I started running when I first gave up alcohol about 5 years ago, I've done a 10K around Paris, a 10K around Tokyo, a 10K around LA. My very first outdoor run ever was along the seafront in Barcelona. And I didn't time myself. I wasn't bothered about the time. It was a beautiful way to experience the city. The problem with a SMART goal is that I would end up trying to beat my time every single time. And therefore it got to the point where I almost didn't like going to bed the night before, because I knew that I had to get up in the morning and go for a run. And I couldn't ever run with anybody else, because I was always out of breath, because I was always trying to beat my time. There was no joy in it at all. Now, you burn the same calories as if you run slowly, as if you run fast. Why? It's just ego. So now I just listen to the birds. I take my time. I look around. I connect to the environment, and I enjoy it. I don't kill myself, and I burn the same calories. So yeah, an incredible lesson for me, an incredible lesson for everybody and all my clients, is focus on meta goals. What is it that you enjoy? Really connect to that. So coming back to the image that I showed you before about me in the speedboat with the terrorists heading towards me and me avoiding, maneuvering my way around all of the obstacles and the bombs and whatever else, the missiles. The way I describe my life now is it's about orienting my life towards, the direction that I know I want to go, making sure that I'm on the right train. That's evolved into the orienting, into me being on the Orient Express. And this is how I describe it to clients as well, that they need to get onto the Orient Express or whatever their version of the Orient Express actually is. And being on the Orient Express is a metaphor for my purpose. And what's my purpose? My purpose is to enjoy life. My purpose is to be present, whatever I'm doing, whether that's working or whatever I'm doing in life. So being on the Orient Express means that I don't have to worry about the destination. I know that I'm oriented in the right direction. And I know that because I'm on the Orient Express, it's going somewhere amazing. It's the Orient Express after all. So what I can do is I can sit there in this beautiful carriage, enjoying a beautiful meal, looking out the window at beautiful scenery. And whatever stops come along, I can get off wherever I want. And I can use whatever lessons I learn in those destinations to maybe change the orientation of my journey. It's up to me. But the point is that I'm steering my life in the right direction. And that's what my clients are doing as well. And being completely present and enjoying the journey. And how different is that to the slide that I showed you earlier of being in a speedboat? And I'm achieving so much more by being present because I'm recognizing the opportunities. So how can you go about doing this? Well, some tips. Obviously, there's only so much I can share in an hour's presentation, but I've tried to boil it down to some key strategies. And the first thing to do with these, breaking free from the shackles of success and the way that we limit ourselves is to try and understand what your shackles actually are. So what are your narratives? What are the stories that you're telling yourself? Where have they come from? How real are they? What can you do about that? Why are you telling yourself those stories? Now, all the stories that we tell ourselves, whether this feels like a little bit of a bold statement or not, but all the stories are fiction anyway. Everything we tell ourselves, every experience that we have, we just create a narrative around it. Our interpretation of every single experience differs from human to human, from human to animal. Every interpretation differs. My interpretation of this experience is totally different to your interpretation because you're bringing years of conditioning to this, and you're layering your own stories on top of it. So whatever narratives we're creating, it's just our interpretation of it, and we can create different narratives. We can reframe our narratives. We can recreate new narratives. We can let go of the ones that don't serve us. Absolutely. So one of the key exercises and the way that I manage to do this and the way that my clients do it is through either self-reflection or guided reflection. And guided reflection, as I mentioned before, is like a supercharged opportunity to really home in on what these narratives are and what you need to do with them. They can be limiting beliefs. I've had many limiting beliefs before, like I can't swim up until the age of 53, and it's too late. It's too late for me to learn how to swim. I would have missed out on so much in life, so much of what I'm doing with my life now, if I'd continued to believe that. And that was just a narrative. And that was absolutely a shackle that was holding me back. And the last one I've put there, and obviously there's so much more that I could add to this, is catastrophes. And what I mean by that is what are the things that you're catastrophizing about? And catastrophization is something that I came across when I started meditating. And through reflection and through being curious and through observation over the course of time, and I'm not really pushing meditation to you here, it's much more about the lessons that I learned when I was doing that. I started to observe my thoughts, and I started to realize that I wasn't in control of my thoughts, that I'd think of something, I'd recognize that I was thinking of something, and I'd let go of it. And then another completely random thought would appear. And I also started to notice that I'd be catastrophizing about things. And for every possible scenario, there'd be 10 different potential outcomes that I'd be catastrophizing about. But what I observed over the course of time was that of the 10 different scenarios, the 10 different potential outcomes of any particular scenario that I'd be catastrophizing about, invariably it was number 11 that happened. So 99% of what I was worrying about was fiction, and it was just a fact. And I observed that over an extended period of time. And that would be a very good exercise that I would recommend that you do. Make a note the next time that you catastrophize about something, and make a list of the different outcomes that you're anticipating, and just follow it through to its ultimate conclusion. Make a note of what did actually happen, and do that several times. And what you'll realize is that the majority, if not pretty much everything that you worry about, is fiction. So the more you can let go of these narratives, these limiting beliefs, and these catastrophes, because they're just layers, the layers of an onion that have been layered on top of you, you know, through your conditioning, through your journey through life. They don't have to define you. You know, the only thing that defines you is the present moment, and you can decide which direction you orient your life in, and you can decide which narratives you create. And those narratives, you know, these new narratives that we create only take 90 days through a process of, you know, positive statements, positive affirmations, and repetition. If you repeat these things to yourself continuously over the course of 3 months, you can create new beliefs. Absolutely. And I see it all the time. I've done it for myself, and I've seen it with my clients. The next thing is that I recommend that you focus on is self-compassion, compassion, and self-belief. One of the exercises that's a really powerful exercise, and it initially feels really quite forced and quite self-indulgent, is take some time to identify your successes. And I would say identify your successes throughout your life. They can be big or small. Make a list of 50 to 100 successes, things that you're proud of in your life. So whether it's winning a race at school, whether it's graduating from university, whether it's being a nice person, whether it's having a lovely husband or a lovely wife, whatever it is being generous, make a list of them and read it daily. I do it on my phone and do it on notes on my phone, so that you can actually look at it wherever you are. You can look at it when you're in the kitchen, you can look at it when you're sitting on the toilet, you can add to it when you're sitting on the bus, and the list can grow. And it makes an incredible difference, because we're so good at telling ourselves that we're not good. And that's not a good thing, because we condition ourselves to believe that we're not enough. And we absolutely are, you know, absolutely. So the second thing is learn to love yourself. You're amazing. We're all amazing. You know, everybody's amazing. We're amazing creations. You know, it's incredible that we even exist. Love yourself, love your legs, love your eyes, love your arms, love everything about you. It's a miracle that you're here. And Sophie, you are your biggest cheerleader, and I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders as well, Sophie. Absolutely. So I would absolutely recommend that. And coming back to filling up your self-compassion bank and it overflowing, you know, the more that you love yourself, if you can't love yourself, you can't genuinely love anybody else. And that might sound like a harsh statement, but it's absolutely true. Build up your self-love and your self-compassion muscles, and you will have so much more to share. It will overflow. You know, you want to be really robust. And the third one is choose to win. Why choose to lose? And again, that might sound strange, but if the future is just a belief, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future, we have no idea what's going to happen. So why choose to believe that you're going to fail? Why not just choose to believe that you're going to win? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Maybe the worst thing that happens is that whatever you decide that you want to do, you get to wherever it is that, the goal that you've set yourself in, the time frame that you've set yourself, and you don't achieve it. Well, is that such a terrible thing? Because all the way to that point in time, you will have enjoyed yourself because you will have believed that you're a winner. And isn't it all about enjoying the journey? But the chances are, if you've chosen to win, you will have a winning mindset, and you will. Absolutely. So coming back to what I was saying before about orienting towards your purpose, that's really important. So not smart goals, not saying I want to be this by this time, I want to do this by this moment. That there's not a lot of joy in that. It will give you wins. You will achieve things by doing that, but it's so much nicer. And actually, I've seen so much more successful to connect to your purpose. What's your greater purpose? What are you doing this in service to? So that you can then reframe, some of the hard things that you have to do in life because you know that they're in service to your greater purpose. My greater purpose is staying on the Orient Express. Never been on it, probably never go on it, but my metaphorical Orient Express, my goal, my purpose is staying on that. And by that, I mean, it's enjoying life. It's being present. It's being connected in this very moment because the only moment that exists is this moment right now. And do set yourself outrageous meta goals. And that's really, really important. And when I work with my clients, I ask them to set outrageous goals and they come back with goals. And I have to say, no, I meant outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Think bigger. Put like me not being able to swim and saying I'm going to swim from island to island in Greece, 5 kilometers. Absolutely crazy. I actually didn't necessarily believe that that was going to happen at the time. Why would it? I'd failed trying to learn how to swim so many times before that. But absolutely, set yourself crazy goals because, I don't believe in manifestation. But what I do believe in is cognitive bias. And if I said to you, look out for red cars, you'll see red cars all over the place, but you probably didn't see any yesterday. And so if you can really visualize these amazing, outrageous goals, the chances are that you'll spot the opportunities around you to deliver them. And again, I see this happening all the time because you're not looking for these things. If, I wasn't looking for mountain climbing. I wasn't looking for ice baths. I wasn't looking for rafting. I wasn't looking for expeditions. I wasn't looking for, any of those things. I wasn't looking to go and sleep in hammocks in the woods with a coaching client. I wasn't looking for any of those things, but I absolutely smashed it because I set an absolutely outrageous goal and I just got onto that, the Orient Express. And the other one is connect to passion and connect to flow. And that's something I've always believed in. And, despite becoming relatively successful in my career, I always said that if I didn't enjoy what I was doing, I'd rather work in a bar. And I absolutely meant that. I came from nothing and had to work my way up. But the reason is because I ended up loving what I did. At one point in my early career, I worked in a bank for a year. I worked in recruitment for a year. I actually went to Polytechnic University and did 2 different courses, 2 first years, and dropped out. And I explored lots of different things. And after I left university, the reason is because I got an amazing job as a executive search person in accountancy, which really didn't sit well with me. And I left there because I didn't like it. And I took an 80% pay cut, literally an 80% pay cut, almost exactly. It was 78% pay cut to go and work in fashion. And because it was something that I believed in and I could combine it with maths, which I was quite good at. And I worked my way up. And what happened is I got onto that train. I connected to my passion. I connected to a flow moment, which we've all done at some point in our lives. And I just hit the ground running and it was easy. And I just worked my way up from that. It just happened because I was enjoying myself. So do connect to passion, connect to flow, connect to your feeling intuition, your feeling body. That's really, really important. The other thing that's very important is to enjoy failure and embrace discomfort. Lean into discomfort. Failure is a good thing. You only learn when you fail. If you don't fail, you're not trying. I used to say this when I was in fashion, that if we had anything more than a 70% success rate, it meant that the buyers weren't trying hard enough because it was too easy. You know, there was untapped potential. It's the same thing in life. You have to fail to learn. And if you can reframe failure as growth, that's incredible. I don't care if I fail now. I have no ego around that. I don't have to be the best. I don't have to win any races. I just want to enjoy them. And as a result, I'm doing so much more. And, you know, that links very nicely into the next point there, which is progress versus perfection. As humans, we have this innate need to grow, to move forward, to learn. It's progress. You know, it's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster. It's not going to be linear. Just move forward, just grow. Don't be perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. 70% is absolutely good enough. What you'll see is if you aim for perfection, you'll see the people that realize that 70% is good enough racing past you. You know, absolutely. Progress is better than perfection. And the other one is eliminate time. Don't set crazy deadlines. Focus on the present moment. The present moment is the most important moment. Enjoy it. Be present. And the other one is the 20% rule. Eliminate noise. 20% of what you do delivers 80% of your return, whether that's in business or whether that's in life. The other 80% of what you do is just noise. Just focus on what gives you the best return. And I see this in all areas of life. I definitely saw it when I was in fashion, and retail full stop, and design as well, that 20% of the product that we sold delivered 80% of the profit. It's crazy. And it's the same thing in life. So focus on the important things and cut out the noise. And then, as we're coming quite close towards the end, some of the best advice I was ever given. And when I stepped up into a managing director role, Ted Marlowe, who was the global CEO of Urban Outfitters, came up with this amazing quote, amazing piece of advice. He said, just make sure that now you're in the leadership role. When I was managing director of Urban Outfitters for Europe, he said, find time to do nothing. That is so important, so important. And by doing nothing, it's not sitting there and just thinking. Thinking is doing something. What you want to be doing is doing nothing, whether that's through meditation, whether that's going for a walk through the woods. Just allow the ideas to bubble up. Don't force them. Connect to your intuitive mind. Recognize, be open, create space. You will be so much more creative and so much more productive. The other piece of advice that always stuck with me very, very early on, I went for a breakfast with Jamie Oliver at the Ivy and a load of other CEOs and managing directors. And this was just before he became incredibly wealthy. And he told us that he'd been very successful in becoming famous, but he'd never made enough money for himself. So he was now going to go hell for leather to make money. And he talked about the best advice he'd ever had. And it was from Sir Paul Smith. He'd got to know Sir Paul Smith when he was working at the River Cafe, when he was in the kitchen there. And Sir Paul Smith was a regular. And Sir Paul Smith had said to him, never try and be the best, but always try and be consistently very good. A very stoic principle for those of you that know about Stoicism. And if you don't, I highly recommend Stoicism. Like the Roman Buddhists, absolutely an amazing philosophy for living. But essentially, just be the best that you can possibly be in the moment. And it's something that I've always believed in. And especially, again, coming back to working in fashion, it absolutely resonated with me because I didn't want to be a fad. I didn't want to be a trend when I set up Urban Outfitters. I wanted us to have longevity. I wanted us to be there for the duration. So I never wanted this to be defined by a particular moment. Also, if you think about it, no sportsman can ever be in the zone at all times. So never try and be the best because you'll always be comparing yourself to other people. Just try and be the best that you can possibly be in the moment at all times. Just be consistently very, very good. You're only competing against yourself. That's a really important one as well. And lastly, and I've mentioned it already, the only time is now. Just focus on now. You know, the present moment is all we have. Nothing happens outside of the present moment. Everything that's ever happened in the present moment. It was the present moment when it happened. And everything that's going to happen in the future will happen in the present moment. It will be the present moment when it actually happens. So that's a really big and profound concept, but really simple. The only time is now. Don't miss it. And that is the end of my presentation. So we have another 5 minutes. Has anybody got any questions, any thoughts, any feedback? Is there anybody that I haven't said hello to? I'm open to questions for the next 3 or 4 minutes. But it's lovely to see so many of you here, and thank you for coming on to this very first webinar. I've really enjoyed the process of setting it up. As you can see, I'm using a platform that is very interesting. It's called StreamYard. I came across it just as I was Googling to see how I could do this. I'm streaming this on LinkedIn and on YouTube. I just set up a YouTube channel pretty much to do this, and that's very exciting as well. It comes back to just enjoying the journey. I'm quite happy that I'll make mistakes. I'm not perfect. It doesn't really matter. It's just fun. I'm just enjoying the journey, and I'll grow from here, and we'll all grow from here, and hopefully somebody on this has taken something from this that's going to help them in life, and you've enjoyed the process. So yeah, any feedback would be greatly appreciated, whether it's in the comments on here, whether it's in the comments, just DM me on LinkedIn, or whether it's on YouTube. Great, Caroline. Thank you very much for that, Caroline. Caroline says, and here we go. I made a mistake there, my first one. There you go, from Kate here. Really struck by and keen to learn more about productive working life. Thank you. And Caroline says, awesome. Thank you, Hugh. Made loads of notes to reread and process. Kenny says, great presentation. Thank you, Hugh. Sophie says, really good. Thank you very much, Sophie. And Samantha says, thank you, Hugh. Very inspiring. And Nicola says, really interesting. Thank you, Hugh. I really, really appreciate this. I'm doing this because I really care. I really want to give back. And this is why I do what I do now. I mean, that goal that I set myself of finding a role with purpose, balance, and joy, and being able to give back, this is it. This was my dream. This was the outrageous goal. And this is exactly what I'm doing. And I'm absolutely loving the process. And yeah, it's great. Thank you very much. And if you're interested, I do a blog, I do a weekly newsletter, and there are lots and lots of tips and tricks that I put onto that. Just the lessons that I learn as I go along. And so also, Nicola, very interested in productive working life. I thought, no, Nicola, you're definitely not over the hill. I thought I was over the hill. I'm 58 and I still have whatever percentage left. I have no concept of time now. I have no concern about time. Time doesn't come into, it doesn't influence any of my decision making now. If I decide to do something, if I decide to climb a mountain or enter a new challenge, I don't even think about time. I think about just enjoying the process, not being perfect. And I achieve so much more because I just don't give up. I have no reason to give up, and that's a really important point. That, in the past I used to just give up. I've given up on lots of things, but now I don't. I have no reason, and I achieve so much more than I'd ever achieved before. And thank you, Jenny, and another great comment there. So yeah, and this is being recorded as well, so I will share it. The other thing that I've got, which is on my website, which is hughwaller.com, is I have a workbook, a handbook that I put together of how to remove the shackles of success. And there are lots of different exercises within that. So if you fancy it, yeah, just come back to me and I'll send you a link to it. Or if you just sign up for my newsletters, you can do that. To go onto my website and you'll be able to sign up there. Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. It's been a pleasure. I think I'm going to end this now. Nigel, lastly, says, great presentation, interesting points about work-life balance, a lot to think about. Thank you. And we're on the hour now. So I'm going to say thank you very much. What do I eat for breakfast? I don't eat breakfast at the moment. I'm doing intermittent fasting. So I now have an amazing lunch. I eat lots and lots of stuff for lunch now. So I'm doing a 16/8 intermittent fast. The only thing that counterbalances that is I'm eating far too much chocolate. But I've even got some chocolate to have after this to treat myself. But other than that, I'm relatively healthy. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you. I'm happy to answer questions. So, if you're all still here, keep asking questions. And I'm in no rush. I've just got a bag of chocolate buttons to go to. But other than that, yeah, wonderful, wonderful. If anybody wants to know about webinars, because I'm an expert now, because I've done one. If anybody wants to know about StreamYard, which is what I'm using for this platform, which is really interesting. I didn't know such a thing existed that would allow you to stream a webinar on both LinkedIn and on YouTube. Although having said that, I haven't seen it on LinkedIn and YouTube yet. After this, I'll go in and have a look. But clearly, LinkedIn is working because it looks like all of you are from LinkedIn. I haven't seen any comments from YouTube. I don't think anybody knows that I'm really doing it on YouTube. I did post it on Instagram. But yeah, if anybody wants some feedback on how I use these tools or how to use them or any recommendations on anything really, just come back and ask me. I'm really happy to share insight. I like talking to people. I like connecting with people. I like sharing the love really. And it's such a privilege now to be doing this from this position. Yeah, Sophie, really happy to chat to you about StreamYard. In fact, we want to chat about something else anyway. No, I didn't know about it either because I didn't know about webinars. I just thought that it was a very corporate thing to do on LinkedIn. But actually, interestingly enough, it's really good fun. And actually, that's interesting as well because LinkedIn, I didn't use LinkedIn when I left Urban Outfitters. Great. So there you go. Yeah, in conversations with, that's what I was anticipating this was going to be because I thought there would be 2 or 3 people that accepted the invitation, and therefore it would just be more of an interactive thing. But I had 23, 25 people, which is too many to do that. So I had to turn it into a comments only. So yeah, absolutely. This is a great tool. I wouldn't have learned about it unless all of you wonderful people had said yes. And Sophie loves LinkedIn. See, that's interesting. When I was and Sophie was actually worked with me at Urban Outfitters many, many, many years ago. When I left Urban Outfitters, I didn't have LinkedIn because I thought the only people that had LinkedIn were people that were always desperately looking for another job, and I was never interested in that. I was much more interested in doing a good job. And then when I joined the Conran shop, I did set up LinkedIn, but I didn't use it at all. So when I left the Conran shop and a couple of years later decided to set myself up as a life coach, I didn't know how to put myself out there. And I felt so awkward because I never posted. I never really did anything on there. And I actually employed a marketing agency and paid them almost £5,000 to help me write just my 2,200 character about section on LinkedIn because I was so resistant to talking about myself. Now look at me. I mean, hasn't life changed? It just goes to show that you step on that path and then, you connect to your passion. And it turns out that there's nothing I'm more passionate about than talking about myself and talking about helping people. Um, um, right. Yes, I remember the Belgian agency owner using LinkedIn. Yeah, I remember the agency specifically. Yeah. So it looks like you're all still here. So I'm quite happy to keep chatting. So as soon as these comments keep coming up, yeah. Any questions from anybody else? I can see that there's a lot of you still on here. So if you have got some questions, or if you're just waiting to see me fail, see the tech go wrong, just let me know. And give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if the sound has been good or bad, because I can't tell from here. All I can hear is my own voice. Because the only interactions I'm getting are obviously on the comments right now, which are wonderful. But the sound and the screen, any feedback on those sorts of things, That would be really appreciated. Thank you, Sophie. You're going, and yeah, thank you for asking questions. Thank you for commenting. Thank you, everybody. Actually, I think I will draw a line under this now, and I am going to end the stream. But if any of you do want a recording of this, if you find it helpful, it will be on YouTube. So do go and start following me on YouTube. But if you want a specific copy, I'm happy to send it to you. And yes, John Lewis people are all over LinkedIn, but I find it awkward. Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's quite a corporate thing, LinkedIn. But well, that's what I thought, because when I first went out onto LinkedIn, my whole feed was full of shop fits and rails, things like that, because they were the people that kept connecting with me. I just accepted connection requests from random people wherever they happened to be around the world. I didn't know most of them. I had about 2,000 connections, 2,500 connections, and I knew probably 3 of them. So yeah, but you can reshape it. It's just algorithms. Now I love my LinkedIn, network, because I'm connected to people that I want to be connected to. I'm interacting with people I want to interact with, and I'm inspired by people on there because I'm interacting with people. There are millions and millions and millions of people out there. So you can, just like Instagram and just like Facebook and just like whatever, you can reshape the algorithm to feed you people that you want to be fed, not fodder, really. So don't look at shop fits and rails, and you won't get shop fits and rails. So you can definitely surround yourself with inspirational people if that's what you're looking for. So thank you very much, Nicola, about the sound. Yeah, that's good news, because I've invested in all this tech. I've got this lovely microphone. I've got some amazing lights, because it was really dark. It's making the background very dark, but it's making me quite light, because yeah, so now that I've become this digital nomad, I'm investing in all of these different things, and yeah, just learning and enjoying. And that's the thing, is I'm not setting any crazy goals for myself other than to enjoy the journey, and as a byproduct of enjoying the journey, I'm being successful. But it really depends on how you define success as well, because is success money? That's not it. That's not everything to do with success. I got to the pointy end of the pyramid as a CEO, and I had all the money and I had all the whatever, the titles and whatever, but there was still something missing. And really, I've been on a quest to find what that was. And really, it's coming from a place of, or maybe that was coming from a place of lack. And that's what you need to do, is lose the sense of lack. Not need to fill some sort of void with something else. It's about connecting to, it's learning to love the void, because the void is everything. You are everything, and within that void it's infinite in there, and infinite everything, including infinite joy. Thank you, Nicola. Great to see you. And yeah, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody now, because I'm just rambling. But thank you very, very much, everybody, for coming. I really appreciate the support for my first one. You've really encouraged me. And what I will probably do is do some more limited ones. So maybe with 10 people, or maybe with 5 people, so we can have it more interactive. And for those of you that want to appear on screen, we can have a proper conversation, like a normal Zoom conversation type thing. And we can explore whatever. Maybe we'll come up with a theme and we can explore from there. So maybe I'll do that on a regular basis. I'm just going with the flow and seeing where the universe takes me. So this feels now, after today, that seems like it could be a nice place to go. So anyway, have a great week, and yeah, see you all soon. Goodbye.